Man, Baker Mayfield got to chill out. Like, you know, you took that opportunity to take a shot at Hue Jackson. Like, to play it like that on the field after the game and then to make the comments that you made, like, you definitely wanted to send a message. Now, I don't have a problem if the message was intended for the guys in his locker room just to kind of create that us against the world mentality.
That's
because
important.
A part of why they drafted Baker Mayfield is to change the culture in Cleveland, and I get it. But a part of this, I don't even want to call it immaturity. A part of this is Baker Mayfield being a little naive about how the business of pro football works. And that's to be expected because he's a young guy. He hasn't been involved with it that long. He's been here, what, 8 months? So, I mean, this is something that's a bit of a learning curve. He'll realize with all the turnover, not just with the coaching staff, but the guys in the locker room, the teammates that you have, like, this is the business of pro football. So I don't think it was right for him to take the shot, but that's his business. But with the comments that Baker Mayfield said, I don't think that you can construe it any other way than him taking a shot at Hue Jackson.
Of course he was taking a shot at Hue Jackson. But listen, every time Baker talks, I like him more. He is unabashedly himself. And that is something that gets some guys in trouble sometimes, but I have enormous respect for. And I think it was premeditated. I think it was about, I'm going to further ingratiate myself in this locker room with my teammates, a lot of whom probably have sour feelings about Hue Jackson. Either because he went to Cincinnati, which I think is kind of a silly thing to get mad at him about because he wanted to keep working and he didn't have a ton of job opportunities, or just because they thought, you know what, you've been holding us back. Like, you were, I know that some people feel
I don't think Baker Mayfield knows enough about the National Football League to even have the opinion you're holding us back.
Great point.
Well, sometimes you don't know. See, hold on, but sometimes you don't know what you don't know. So maybe.
Well, it's my job to acknowledge that.
Of course, but just because you can say with your experience he doesn't know if you're actually being held back doesn't mean Baker, in his experience, doesn't feel like, of course I know, of course. So you can say that he's wrong, but I just think Baker or guys in that locker room, maybe they're wrong about it, but feel like, man, he was holding us back. He was a phony here. Forget that guy. Like, and I think that's what he was representing for his teammates and for the fans of the Browns. Now, you can say it's an immature way to act. It's not classy, all those things. But Baker isn't running from it. He's not saying I was taking the wrong. Go ahead.
One time I had a situation when I had already been a starter. I was cut by Philadelphia, claimed by Minnesota. I'm on Minnesota. I've been there like 5 weeks, and they did have Anthony Carter, Hassan Jones, Steve Jordan, Cameron Jordan's dad, great tight end. So we had some weapons and everything. One of the wide receivers was hurt. We're in Tampa playing. We kick the ball to them. They go down and score. We get the ball. We throw an interception. They go and score. We go 3 and out, and the wide receiver coach calls down and tells them to bench me. And I was upset. At halftime, I told him I took exception to it. It ends up carrying over to the next day when you meet with your position coach. I told him I didn't have a problem with that. And he told me that as long as he was there, his name was Dick Rabine, God rest his soul, he's gone, passed away. But he said, as long as I'm here, I don't look at you as being a starter. And I said, wow, well, I hope you're not here long. He eventually ended up going other places, and my career ended up taking off as soon as he went out the door. And when someone asked me about Dick Rabine, I couldn't hide how I felt about him. So what I saw in Baker Mayfield is, number one, how he felt about Hue, but what's more important, when Dick Rabine, when he crossed me up that way, you ran into who Chris Carter really was. And Baker Mayfield, we are starting to see, this is not the combine. This is not trying to win a job. This is a guy who has been given a franchise. He has passed all the tests. Can he move forward as a franchise quarterback? Yes. But when he was applying for this job, you know what Baker was doing? He was saying all the right stuff. He was making all the right moves. But now, if you're an NFL fan, you're a Cleveland Browns fan, you can expect you're going to get spicy comments. He told you, I am not your typical quarterback. And how he got to where he is not the typical route. That's how you grab your crotch. That's how you plant a flag in someone else's stadium. That's how you get arrested. That's how you have drunk driving. All these things lead to that quarterback who's speaking. So he's already got. I don't think it was drunk driving. He was drinking in public intoxication.
Public intoxication. But did you ever see that coach went on the field when he was coaching someone else? Of course I did. And he tried to come up and acknowledge me, and I told him he could get lost. He could beat it. He could kick rocks. Miss me with any type of comment. Because at that time, I was a team captain, and I was getting ready to break the NFL record that season. So I didn't want to talk to him. But
I knew that the truth, when they asked me about him, I couldn't lie. And this is who Baker is. And that's okay. But let's just realize this is who he's going to be as a quarterback. He's not going to be like Russell Wilson. Now, you can like it or leave it, but I just think it's important to say who he is so the public, you start to get used to. You're not going to get Tom Brady interviews. You're going to be closer to Ben Roethlisberger, all right? Put his soundbite in there and let him do this for 15 years. Imagine what Baker's going to be saying then.
Great point.
Well, no,
and
for me, I like it. I know you tell me all the time, like, you can't go around always being your true 100% authentic self. That we all...
It's impossible. No one is.
Right. That we all try to shade things, or you can't always be 100% honest at times. Like, there are things, especially if you're a public person, you've got to shade it. But Baker is in a position of enormous power. He's not going to be benched. He is the face of the franchise. He is playing excellent. The last 3 weeks since he was fired, what is he? 9 touchdowns, 1 pick. They're 2-1. He's got a 130 rating. He's playing great. And he can just be like, hey, this is who I am.
And this is what leadership is. If you're going to be a leader, a dynamic leader in the NFL locker room, you're going to rub people some wrong way. And I know this through years and years and years of doing those press conferences. Man, it takes a long time before you start to get it right. Which tone, which pitch, what are you going to say? What are you going to leave out? Man, he's new at this. So that's who he is. I expect it to be a little spicy. I hope it's not as spicy as old spicy mouth Jalen down in Jacksonville, but I don't mind some of the realness that we see with some of the players, especially when it leads to, I'm changing this franchise. Does it bleed into my teammates and help them out? If it does that, I believe it can be good, but we must watch it.
And that's why I think we have to take a wait-and-see approach, because the one thing that you do worry about with these types of comments, is it going to be a distraction? Is it going to get in the way of this young team continuing to develop? We'll find out. They're on the road with Houston this week, I think it is. So we'll find out about whether or not these comments actually galvanize this team, or whether it takes away from what they're trying to do in Cleveland in terms of building identity for this franchise moving forward.
Nick, I'm always this witty and charming all the time. All the time. It's always me.
You just save that for off the air?
Got to take a break coming up.
Marcy and them think she's amazing.